In the thick darkness of the Vatican, a silent war is smoldering in America. Not among the enemies, but right among the most loyal sons of the Catholic Church. And now, as the last breath of an era fades away, who will be the one to open the door and step into the future? Just a few more days, and the 2025 Papal Conclave will officially begin. But what moved the entire world was not just the election of a new pope. What will the future of the Catholic Church look like? Shall we forever open our arms, ready to embrace all changes? Shall we turn back, shut the door tight, and hold fast to the eternal truth? Amid that grave crisis, two names loomed large like opposing mountain peaks. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, a symbol of compassion and gentleness, and Cardinal Raymond Leo Burke, a symbol of eternal tradition and unwavering discipline. They didn't need to say a word, for their opposition had already echoed through every church. Today, we will embark together on a journey to explore the life, mission, and this silent yet intensely tense confrontation, where even the smallest decision can shape the fate of the entire church in the 21st century. In southern Wisconsin, Cardinal Raymond Leo Burke has long been a familiar name. Recently, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle's speech on the feast day of St. John Henry Newman left many faithful deeply shaken. Back then, theological debates within the church only took place in hushed whispers in the shadows, in the obscure Latin tongue, behind the cold stone walls of the Vatican, never venturing beyond the church pews. But that era had faded into the past. By 2025, the divide had become starkly clear. The voices now rang out with strength and sharpness. Currently, the church is openly divided into two distinct factions. One side consists of those eager for renewal, while the other is made up of those determined to uphold tradition. No one exemplifies this contrast more vividly than Cardinals Luis Antonio Tagle and Raymond Burke. Although Cardinal Burke did not make any official statement about Cardinal Tagle, the tense atmosphere between the two was evident to everyone. This is not a confrontation between individuals, but a clash between two souls, two opposing views on the nature and future of the church. Two cardinals, one church, yet walking on two entirely different paths. If you have ever followed the steps of the church under Pope Francis, certainly, you will recognize Cardinal Tagle as the radiant voice of mercy, compassion, and renewal. Cardinal Burke is the pioneering leader in the movement to defend traditional faith foundations. He did not hesitate to criticize even the Pope, the one who appointed him. They are not enemies, but two opposing extremes. In the silent battle for the soul of the church, that opposition is like an earthquake. Cardinal Tagle, the warm-hearted shepherd of Pope Francis's church, is not merely a bishop or a theologian. For millions of believers, he is the living embodiment of the compassionate vision that Pope Francis has always cherished. Cardinal Burke stands as a steadfast pillar of tradition, resolute, strong, and clear in every stance. Burke believed that the church should not conform to secular trends but must steadfastly proclaim the truth to the world, even if that truth unsettles people's hearts. He once reminded us, "Mercy without truth is no longer true mercy, but merely a pretense." Cardinal Burke believes that Cardinal Tagle's open approach is like a slippery slope, easily leading to the distortion of doctrine merely to accommodate fleeting emotions. Before delving into details, it's important to remember that both are devout followers of the church. They cherish the church, devoutly serve Christ, and always desire the best for their flock. Thus, this division is not merely a disagreement, but rather like a silent storm raging in the hearts of millions of Catholics worldwide. Should we preserve or innovate, be conservative or open-minded, be strict or compassionate? Not a single social media post, no controversial interview, nor any public exchange of verbal attacks. Because Homie Berg never directly mentioned Homie Tagle, but every time he spoke out against that false sense of compassion. Whenever the chaos of reason is discussed, the figure of Homie Tagle emerges in every word. On the other side, Homie Tagle has also never publicly criticized Homie Berg. He quietly continued his mission, easing pains and mending broken hearts, in accordance with the call of Pope Francis. That silence is not indifference, but a choice, a way to fight with vision, not with screams. But in that silence, millions of believers are still torn between two paths, two calls vying for the heart of the church. Homie Berg urges people to return to traditional teachings and the eternal, unchanging truths. Homie Tago calls on us to move forward with the world, to listen more deeply, to lead more gently, and to innovate more courageously. This is not a battle between good and evil. This is a conflict between two different notions of loyalty. Both affirm their loyalty to the same sacred tradition. That is the tension Catholics often feel most acutely when attending Mass, going to confession, or during catechism classes. And this unease will only grow in the coming days, as the Church faces a pivotal moment, choosing the new Pope to succeed. Experts analyzing the issue of papal succession, from Politico and Newsweek to Catholic media outlets, all share the same assessment that Hong Yi-Burke and Hong Yi-Tagle are two prominent leaders representing the two major factions shaping the future of the Catholic Church in the coming period. Hong Yi-Tagle is frequently listed among the potential candidates for the papacy, often portrayed as a spiritual successor to Pope Francis's reformist legacy. Meanwhile, Yi-Burke, who was once removed from key positions in the Vatican, is now celebrated as the most powerful voice representing the conservative Catholic faction. Cardinal Tagle symbolizes renewal, while Cardinal Burke represents opposition. The next pope will be a sign of which direction the Church is ready to take in the future. As the Catholic Herald noted in 2025, this is no longer speculation but an official acknowledgement. The two Mr. Hong Yis were not merely leaders, but also became true icons. When Pope Francis passed away, Cardinal Raymond Leopold's voice finally spoke out. "Your words were not meant as an apology, nor a retreat, but rather to create an even greater shockwave." For over a decade, Hong Yi-Burke has been the most outspoken dissenting voice among Catholic leadership. As a staunch conservative, he frequently raises challenging questions to Pope Francis on many controversial issues. From blessing same-sex couples to allowing remarried divorcees to participate in communion. Reforming the death penalty and the council structure in church governance. The conflict reached its peak in 2014 when Pope Francis decided to remove Cardinal Raymond Burke from his position as prefect of the Supreme Tribunal of the Apostolic Signature. Years later, he also revoked Cardinal Burke's housing and financial privileges at the Vatican, publicly stating that he was the root cause of the division. Hong Yi-Burke is widely regarded as the emblematic figure of the conservative movement opposing reform. To others, he is the guardian of the eternal blue sky tradition. And now, after the passing of Pope Francis, Cardinal Yi-Burke has broken his silence. Contrary to media predictions, Hong Yi-Burke's remarks were neither arrogant, bitter, nor tinged with the slightest hint of regret. On the contrary, they are filled with intimate reflections and astonish with their humble grace. He acknowledged that it was clear the Pope did not want me to hold any leadership position. But he also stressed that I do not see him as an enemy, nor am I his enemy. Once considered a rival to the Pope, Cardinal Yi-Burke now speaks with deep reverence and solemnity. He affirmed that all of his actions were not driven by hatred or opposition, but rather by something greater, conscience. Hong Yi-Burke once said that when faith and doctrine are threatened, silence is not an act of love, it is betrayal. Immediately after that confession, a fierce backlash erupted, with conservatives fervently praising his unwavering, uncompromising stance. A lay believer wrote that he always steadfastly defends the truth, even when it displeases many people. After all that has happened, they show not a shred of repentance. Catholics are both admiring and anxious, cherishing the Church, yet wondering what price must be paid for such unity. S. stance and reminded the world that the debates during Fancy Co. Those were sacred battles to defend the soul of the Catholic Church. S. remarks go beyond mere ordinary observations. They also serve as a clear signal about the Church. His words pointed out three evident truths. The Church is in a state of severe division, and currently, there exist two distinct ways of religious life. One side leans toward tolerance, adaptability, and flexibility in pastoral work. The other remains steadfast in upholding clear doctrine, defined boundaries, and eternal truth. Hong Yi-Burke stood his ground in the back and refused to back down. Protesting doesn't mean ignoring the consequences. Burke did not abandon the Church. He did not oppose. Though rejected, he remained steadfast. For Burke, that was the truest expression of loyalty. The next papal conclave will be decisive. Will the new pope continue the reformist path of Pope Francis, or will he restore more traditional rituals? Burke's words are not just a wake-up call but also a heartfelt plea to unite those who share the same ideals. I still remember those days when bishops and cardinals were not public media figures, but rather guardians of truth, defenders of tradition, and keepers of the faith. Those people refused to yield to life's upheavals, standing firm like a stone pillar in the storm. Cardinal Raymond Leo Burke is precisely one of those rare individuals. Both respected and controversial, yet he has never faded into the background of the Church's historical narrative. Cardinal Burke's career is not merely defined by prestigious titles. It is also the journey of a steadfast and tireless heart. In an age when silence is often easier than speaking out, Cardinal Burke chose to heed the call of conscience. It is the journey of a man who wields canon law as his weapon, tradition as his compass, and faith as the banner that guides his way. Born as a farm boy in Wisconsin, Raymond Burke rose to become a judge of the Vatican Supreme Court. Born on June 30, 1948, in the town of Richland Center, Wisconsin, he grew up in a large Catholic family. His childhood was deeply rooted in faith, vast open fields, and days of hard work. Like many American boys of his time, his life revolved around church, family meals, and the duty of attending Sunday Mass. Midwest. He studied at Holy Cross Seminary, then continued at the Catholic University of America, and finally at the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome, the cradle that has nurtured many of the Church's future came when he was ordained as a priest by Pope Philadelphus at St. Peter. Burke did not seek power. He pursued precision. After serving at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross and teaching religion at Aquinas High School, he returned to Rome in 1980 to complete his doctoral thesis in canon law. This is not an easy journey, but a marathon that demands endurance both mentally and intellectually. Burke not only completed it, but excelled brilliantly. In 1984, he returned to La Crosse and took on the role of diocesan coordinator and deputy chief of printing. However, just 5 years later, a major turning point arrived in his life. In 1989, he was appointed to the position of Defender of the Bond at the Supreme Tribunal of the Apostolic Signatura, the highest judicial body of the Holy See. Notably, he was the first American citizen in history to hold this important position. Burke rose from the rural fields to the center of Vatican power through iron discipline, profound knowledge, and unwavering loyalty to the faith. In 1994, Pope John Paul II appointed Cardinal Burke as Bishop of the Diocese of La Crosse. The ordination ceremony was held on January 6, 1995. From the very first days of assuming office, Burke proved he was not a bishop who simply sat back and enjoyed the comforts of his position. He built the sanctuary of Our Lady of Guadalupe, welcomed traditional Catholic groups, and actively restored the Latin Mass in the Tridentine Rite even before this form was officially permitted for widespread use. Burke emphasizes solemnity, devotion, and the beauty of sacred rituals. Many criticize him for his rigid demeanor, but to his supporters, he is a symbol of integrity and fairness. Not only focusing on liturgical ceremonies, Burke also raised teachers' salaries, paid special attention to Catholic education, and promoted charitable activities. His leadership style is complex, passionate, and controversial, but one thing is certain: Burke always commits fully, never doing things halfway. In 2003, he was appointed Archbishop of the Archdiocese of St. Louis, a far greater and more challenging responsibility. Burke enters a challenging battle against the issues of the times, from the shortage of vocations to cultural pressures. He dared to do what most others feared. He enforced religious discipline with strictness and without compromise. The priest does not allow politicians who support abortion to receive communion. He also openly criticizes the relativistic moral mindset. In a shocking move, he decided to excommunicate the parish council of St. Stanislas Kostka following a bitter conflict over ownership and management rights. Lawsuits kept piling up, yet between them came bursts of enthusiastic applause. Burke refused to yield. To his critics, he appeared as a stubborn conservative. In the eyes of his supporters, he was a resolute general, ready to fight to safeguard the soul of the Church. In 2008, Pope Benedict XVI appointed Cardinal Burke as prefect of the Supreme Tribunal of the Apostolic Signatura, a position equivalent to the Chief Justice of the Vatican's Supreme Court. For 6 years, he resolved canonical disputes, defended the Church's teachings, and upheld the justice of faith. In 2010, Burke was appointed a cardinal, a clear recognition of his prestige and the trust the Vatican placed in him. He has held several key positions within Vatican institutions, including the Congregation for Bishops, the Congregation for the Clergy, and the Congregation for the Causes of Saints. Cardinal Burke quickly emerged as the preeminent intellect of the traditional Catholic movement worldwide, but the tides of time gradually turned. After Prince Tan Tra Fanpsycho ascended the throne in 2013, Cardinal Burke's influence gradually faded. He expressed concerns about the unclear points in certain teachings, particularly the Apostolic Exhortation Amoris Laetitia, regarding the permission for remarried divorcees to receive communion. Cardinal Burke directly sent a letter along with official documents, posing clear questions demanding Archbishop Tan Tra to clarify his stance. Fanpsycho remained silent, not answering. In 2014, Cardinal Burke was dismissed from the apostolic signature and reassigned to the honorary position of patron of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, a prestigious role without actual authority. For many, it's no different than exile. In 2023, Duke Fanpsycho made a decisive and uncompromising decision: revocation of Cardinal Burke. But Cardinal Burke remained steadfast, unwavering. He sees it as a personal sacrifice, but he is willing to endure it for the sake of what is right. Today, Cardinal Burke has become a focal point for millions of Catholics, especially those devoted to the traditional Latin Mass. To them, he was a hero, a steadfast figure who stood strong when others fell. To many, he was seen as a divisive figure, a reckless advocate for pastoral reforms. However, no one can deny his immense influence. Cardinal Burke frequently attends Catholic conferences and is one of the figures prioritized by the media for interviews. And is the living embodiment of loyalty to the pure doctrine. Agata de maintain his position in the College of Cardinals and within the global leadership of the Church. On the eve of the 2025 Cardinals Conference, the atmosphere in the Vatican grew stifling and tense. A decision is about to be made, and this will not only shape a new dynasty, but could also determine the fate of the entire Church for generations to come. We are stepping into a historic moment, when silence itself becomes a wake-up call, when every gaze, every vote has the power to shift the tide of Catholic faith worldwide. But the most terrifying question remains unanswered. Will the Church choose to move forward with the world, or stand firm in the storm to uphold eternal truth? Let's delve deeper into the mysteries behind the closed doors of the Vatican, where the future is quietly being written.